Well, good morning.
Good
Happy
morning,
Saturday
Jeff.
to you.
Happy Saturday. We're here again, episode 2.
That's right. Yeah, we kind of find ourselves square in the middle of recent, for lack of a better word, epidemic, right? So everybody's affected by this, COVID-19 and of course, the coronavirus. And so this idea that, well, actually, right now, I just thought about it. We're kind of violating the policy a little bit. We're 4 feet apart
Only
versus the 6 feet. Yeah.
What is it? The policy
social
California put out?
social separation,
Social distancing.
Thank you. Yes, we're all trying our best effort to maintain that. I suppose for this recording, we're going to let it ride, but for the most part.
I think it's more than 10 people. More than 10 people, right?
Yeah,
you can't have more
it
than
was
10
50.
people
Now
in a
it's
room.
10. Yeah, and that really is a great idea. In fact, I've been booted out of our gym, which all closed down, and so now I'm having to retrofit and make one in the garage for now, and because no more gym time for a while.
Yeah.
And so these things affect businesses in a huge way. They really do. Now the gym may see some revenue or some drop off, and
Definitely.
and that's just one drop in the bucket for a lot of people. So we're experiencing this as well. We'll get to these masks in a minute, but we're experiencing that as well. This idea that even Tesla announced, right, they're going to cease production for a while. I think they're going to try to ramp up, kind of like during war times. I don't know. You're a young man, but I can remember certain times. It wasn't in great large numbers. It was actually before my time in a previous generation. They would actually go to car companies and say, cease production of a certain line and start creating either build for us whatever we need for the military, be it vehicles, tanks, parts, pieces, etc. So, and they would use their similar production line or modify it to fit the need for what was needed for defense at the time. And we are at war here, like it or not. And this is, I really shy away from using words that are loaded, but they're accurate. Words like pandemic. It is. This is something that encompasses pan, meaning the entire.
Yeah.
This is the world. So we are unifying, hopefully, over this. But Tesla announced that they're going to stop making or producing cars, releasing them out of their Fremont location.
I read up on that.
So we'll see how that transpires. Even for us, to be really candid about it, our calls have dropped off significantly. People requesting quotes, wanting to talk. Just, hey, this is what I'm going at, and that's just one brand, one manufacturer. And then you multiply that times all the others, which I'm sure are feeling the same thing. So we're all in the same boat. Let's not hide behind it and pretend that something's not there. It's there. What are we going to do? So we're excited to get behind Tesla in a lot of ways because this is neat that they're willing to put aside their own profits and to then assist and augment in what they can create, because they're not just shopping production. They're going to retool to what they can do to help somehow fight this. Yeah. So exciting.
That's crazy, though. What are those right there? There's the...
Well, this is gold right here is what this is. This is a box of 3M, so the best of the best N95 masks. I actually went through in our safety department here to EV Pros and searched feverishly. A good friend of ours is a nurse at the hospital here locally, and I know they put out a word, anybody who had N95 masks, to donate those. And so I actually, believe it or not, when I found them, I almost screamed and squealed like I just found struck gold. Eureka, right? And
do those actually work?
Well, they and I'm not sure to what degree we would use them for dust masks. And in fact, these are what we call disposable, meaning that we can go through 2 or 3 or 4 of these in a day if we're working in, say, an attic, running cables through.
Right.
And these are really good masks, and in the sense that the N95 is a great filter system. Of course, the mask does have to seal all the way around the mouth and the face in order for it to be effective. But we'll go through those. They're disposable to us. And all of a sudden, these disposable masks are now... You better hold on to it for a long time. And that can be a little bit of a challenge because you want to make sure it stays clean. We put them in a Ziploc bag. Now, we're treating these as if we're never going to have one ever again.
A commodity, man.
Well, we don't know. And so, the hospitals have been asking if anybody has them in the construction industry to donate them. And of course, we do have a sealed package that we'll be delivering to Hoag Hospital later today because they're going to want those. Yeah, they're absolutely. These are, I think, usually this box of 10 normally costs me somewhere around $25 or so.
Bucks.
Yeah, or a little less, maybe 18, depending on where I get it. And now I think you can't even get them online, but we'll call them poachers.
So it's like Clorox wipes. You can't get them online.
You can't get anything, and these you can't find them anywhere. If anybody even had these right now, this box would probably be somewhere in the $500 to $600 range, from what I've seen online. Now that's what they're advertising for. I don't know if that's what they're getting
from 3M or people.
No, 3M doesn't sell them. Yeah, 3M actually just got a contract with the government to produce these on a major scale. So they're known. 3M's been around for an enormous amount of time, and they're an extremely quality company. So. They set the standard for masks and safety gear in general, and tapes, adhesions.
So there's only ones that do that little filter part.
No, other companies do. Radnor does. There are many. And N95 is basically just a measurement of filtration down to particulates.
Yeah.
And apparently, someone's figured out that that's going to be helpful in the transmission. Wearing a mask, they say, if you don't have symptoms, this is what I've been told. If you don't have symptoms, don't bother wearing a mask. If you do, don't then wear a mask because you don't want to give them out.
The cough part, right? When you're
exactly.
Coughing and stuff, sneezing.
Okay. And of course, if you're working in an environment where you're more susceptible, such as a hospital, it's obviously a good idea. So we're doing our part as EV Pros to give these away, and I found them and I thought, oh, this is wondering, great, now we're saved. But to give these away as a it's thinking more altruistically. This idea of a larger globally thinking, and that goes along with the theme of who we are, right? EV Pros is not just about a business. It's not just about turning a profit and making money. It's really about providing a service and being part of a global effort for change. And so this idea of we're going to do our part in the electric car industry is how do we do our part to make this world a better place?
Right.
I don't know if you've heard some of the neat things from personal reports of people I was hearing on the radio the other day of as tragic as Italy has been hit by what's been going on, that they've seen an enormous uptick in their clarity, if you will, of pollution, meaning it's been going away. So this rate of attrition where it's going away as production and industry is coming to a halt because of this tragedy they're experiencing.
Right, so nobody's outside.
Well, yeah, and they've said that the and I've never been there, but where the gondolas ride around in Venice and all the water's there. Before they said it was murky, you couldn't see anything. Now they said you can actually see fish swimming around, and because the industry and the people pollution, if you will, that have dumped into that is now clearing up.
Right.
I've been told by others that the skies over the areas in China where most of the production and manufacturing is done is typically a deep haze most of the time, and now you're beginning to see clear skies. That's what a wonderful, if you will, or a sign of hope
right
in the middle of this, that this is great tragedy, but we can do better. We really can. If we really try, can we find a means and a methods by which to still produce what we need to produce, but also taking care of the environment that we have.
Right.
So, and how can we find balance in the middle of that? It doesn't have to do with politics necessarily, although I know that's a part of it. It has a fiduciary impact. It is monetary. But if we let's take a step back and go, wait a minute.
Like the bigger picture?
Bigger picture. What do we want to look like in 10, 15, 20, 100 years from now? We want our progeny to experience a better life than we even experience today. So I grew up, in the 70s and 80s, and LA used to have smog alerts, right, where kids couldn't play outside in recess. Well, we changed some of our rules, and now we don't have that problem anymore. So we did make it a better place. Yeah. With the advent of EVs, we're going to make it an even better place. So, donating these masks is exciting. I'm also seeing these masks in a lot of ways as a metaphor. They're a metaphor for hope, I think, because I think actually, for me, one of the greatest, perspectives in life, one of the greatest emotions that we can experience is this idea of hope. And we're all faced with tragedy on many levels. Some people have it right now, depending on their resources, opportunities, backup plans, or socioeconomic status. Right. All of these things play into how we feel about things right now and how we're processing them. And some people have a greater level of resources. These things maybe not affect them as much. Others significantly affect them. A day off of work has a significant impact to them.
Especially if you're not a big person who saves, like
100%.
Money saver.
And we live in a tough time.
They can hit you pretty hard.
This is in Orange County where we live is arguably one of the most expensive places in the country to live. So, when you've got a 1-bedroom apartment that on average here in just I'll call it middle to middle, even maybe middle lower area, is still going to run you somewhere around, and correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere at least $1,500 bucks.
1,500.
And then you start wanting to get a little better areas. You could be 2, 3, 3,500 for that same apartment in other areas. So then you move into single family dwellings, 2 and 3 bedrooms. This is a real challenge for people. Yeah. So all of a sudden, when their income is no longer, because now we're having to keep separation, and these things have impact. And I just feel like hope in the middle of this time and perspective, just take a step back to breathe, to kind of recenter ourselves. Yeah, and that's different for each person, right? For people of faith, that may mean stepping back going, okay, I want to spend some time in prayer. For people who are not of that, maybe for whatever they find for them, just to recenter and to kind of breathe and go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. And to not get stuck and caught up in the pandemonium and the chaos of uncertainty, that's tough. I know it is. It really is when we don't know what tomorrow is. But truth be told, those who experience tragic things in life, cancer, car accidents, etc., they've already learned we already live in a world of uncertainty. And so I was talking to a good friend of mine who's from Guatemala, and he'd experienced life without toilet paper. So, and a lot of people
his whole life?
No, as a youngster.
Okay.
And not to get too graphic with it, but and I read a book years ago called Rain of Gold when I was at Long Beach State. Great book. And it catalogs a journey. I believe it was from somewhere in Central America. It could have been southern Mexico, where this gentleman and his family traveled up to the United States. And the whole book catalogs their journey and what it was. And at the time, I thought, this can't be real. I mean, and then I talked to another guy I knew who was from Peru, and he said, no, that's real. And what I mean by that is they would take corn cobs and use those to clean themselves instead of toilet paper. So there are ways that people get around these things, that we get so caught up in, oh my goodness, I can't get TP, I can't get paper towels. Yeah, guess what? This is tragic. It's tough for some people, but there's
other places where it's been worse. Yeah,
this is normal life for them.
I mean, I remember in the military when we'd go out in the field, and just be out there for weeks, months.
Wow.
We'd have to dig ditches.
Okay.
To go take a shit, pretty much, and then if we didn't have toilet paper, I mean, because if you're thinking operation checks and stuff like that, like you got to bring toothbrush, you got to bring toothpaste. Wipies, but at some point you kind of don't gauge it right because how long you're going to be out there, so you run out. So then you got to go into the MREs and take out the little things, and then
try to clean yourself.
Exactly. So it's all about adapting, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's very important too.
It is, and so we're going to have to learn a new way to adapt to today's economy, and I would almost say today's economy of emotion. Meaning, how do we not get caught up in this idea that we don't know? And I think in the West here, we've really become very familiar with consistency. And a lot of the world doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And so in some places, they might actually, with far less resources, be able to deal with something and the emotions that are attached with an epidemic like this. We go off the rails. Take a step back. What are the things we're beginning to enjoy now? Board games with the family. Wow, what does that look like? Interaction?
You got to bring the old times back.
In a lot of ways, we do.
Monopoly or something.
And you think about this. What if this would have happened, say, when I was growing up? We didn't have the internet. I'm 49. We didn't have the internet back then when I was probably until I started college. So, and even then it was, it was pretty rough as far as speeds. So, how would we now how would we now, tie into work? Now at least you can work remotely. I mean, this is a wonderful benefit. The world is actually moving on now, even though we have this incredible pandemic. Now we're actually able to continue to move forward and what we need to do for our jobs, even though we're limited, we can't get to the office. What if this would have happened 30 years ago, 35 years ago?
Right.
This would have drawn everything to a complete halt. We might have even a bigger tragedy on our hands. And so I really am concerned for people in general, overall. We will survive. People are tenacious. The human spirit is untenable. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we check ourselves. Hey, where am I today? Like right now, where am I? Am I going to allow the chaos of the uncertainty to
break me down?
Exactly. All of us grew up in different families and homes and chaos, and we learned how to navigate life. How are we going to take some of those tools we learned and maybe didn't learn then, interface them with what we know is the best course of practice, and then make a forward step and be a good human. I mean, take the person next to you. Right. What are we going to do? It's true. And how are we going to treat others? A gentleman yesterday stopped by the bagel shop, opened the door to go in and grab a quick bite, and I actually stepped in, but I was on the phone. He came in after me, and rightly so, I stepped to the side so he could go ahead. And he just waited. It was so kind. He waited and said, no, go ahead. You were first. And so I talked to him for a little while afterwards and wound up buying his meal for him just as a thank you, because it was so kind to have that human spirit interaction. Right. Normally you don't get that. Yeah. He kept saying thank you. And I said, no, I just appreciated your thoughtfulness, that this idea of interplay between people. So, and we were obviously from different parts of the world. We were from different cultures. It was very clear. Yeah. And yet this camaraderie came, and I thought, I wonder if that would have happened 4 to 6 weeks ago. Would I have been in a different place where I might have been more selfish? Would he have been in a different place?
Right. So you feel like this situation can bring people in a mindset to be like nicer? You feel like that's gonna open up their minds and be like, you know what? I think we gotta be nicer as people, like in general.
Well, I think what's going to happen is you'll see this curve, right? You saw this idea of people were grab it, right? Right. This idea, oh my goodness.
All the toilet paper stuff?
Yeah, right. and just in general, right? I'm going to buy these resources and make sure that I'm okay. Quite honestly, you don't have to teach people to be selfish, right? Have a child, you'll learn pretty quick. Yeah. I mean, they're all about themselves. We are by nature very narcissistic, and I don't mean that necessarily in the pejorative fashion. I mean that in the sense of we're about self-preservation. That's kind of built into our DNA. And so there's no problem that I'm going to always look out for me, number one. The greatest example of this I heard years ago was when there's a group picture taken and you're in it and it's sent to you. Who's the first person you look for? Yourself.
Right.
And I
see how I look.
Exactly.
Let me see how I look.
And that's never more clear than today. But that was told to me 20 years ago, and that really hit me hard. Like it's
man.
True.
It's one of those things you're like...
Yeah, who cares? So, but this idea that we never have to, but I think that this again, epidemic of these buzzwords we're using, I think once we get over that curve of we realize I'm gonna be okay, and dealing with our own emotions, which are driving that. They're driving. We're all looking for center. Oh my goodness! And once we kind of get to the place where we go, wait a minute, I'm gonna be okay. I really will be fine. Then people are able to pour out, and they're able to then look to others, their neighbors, their friends, maybe people they wouldn't even consider their neighbors or friends, and. I'm hoping that when life does quote unquote return to normal, that there are like rings in a pond where you drop a rock and you see the rings that explode. I'm hoping that some of the positive interaction we're experiencing as humanity will begin to expose itself and have lasting perpetual effects. So we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah, I believe it's a good thing. Like you said, it's a good. What'd you say? It was a good. What'd you say, tragedy?
Yeah, if there's a way to look at it, right, a positive tragedy. Right. I mean, it's kind of an oxymoron.
It's all about perspective.
It is, and that's tough to have. Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I mean, again, as we started the show, we were saying calls dropped off. Our sales have dropped off exponentially, and yet I'm confident they're going to return. We're going to get by. We're going to make it. And to have a position of hope, I know nose of the grindstone, do what we should be doing, keep social distancing, practice these things we know are
optimism.
Best. 100%. And not to have this idea of it's going to get better, but I'm going to keep doing life as I do it. No. We need to make changes. We need to make those changes and to learn to live in a new world that we live in now.
Right.
But at the same token, not get caught up in the idea that, oh no, this is going to be horrible forever. It's not. Yeah. It will go on.
It's only temporary.
It is. And nobody
we don't know
knows.
For how long though, but like What do you think?
We don't know, but we don't know again as well. And not to put a gloom and doom on it, but we don't know that tomorrow we don't have a pain in our belly and find out that we have cancer.
Yeah.
We just don't know. And so this idea of life is fragile. People need each other. We need to be loving on one another. We need to have a bigger global picture in the sense of who we are as people. And how can I begin to step away from me for a minute and serve others, but also begin to, how do I bring healing to the world around me? How do we bring healing to self? How do we then begin to navigate things that we aren't comfortable with, like having to deal with the fact that I feel very scared, right, in a time like this? Yeah, raise your hand, people. We're all in the same boat. What are we going to do? And just to begin to be honest with ourselves. So I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, exciting to see.